And it really is an honor for me to be here with you because I think it says that American Electric Power is trying very hard to be a compliant company. We surely aren't there. We aren't where you'd like to be, but we continue to strive toward that goal. So you ask yourself about compliance, and you think through, for an organization, where does compliance come from? My view of that, quite honestly, is that it comes from the men and women who work at the company. I firmly believe that it's the intent of all workers to do an honest day's labor for an honest day's pay and to be straightforward with the people that they deal with. I don't think companies set out to shortchange customers, to misrepresent facts to those who are asking about those issues. And so it really is something that's ingrained in the body of the people itself, the fabric of the company. But the people inside of an organization really need to be free to speak their piece. But it's the whole notion of empowering the men and women of the organization to do what they want to do. And that really comes at the tone of the top. And it's essential that you set that stage and do all the things that you can to see to it that you provide them the opportunity and the freedom to speak their mind. If you, as the organizational leadership team, miss an opportunity to free that incredible capability of the human spirit to be honest, then you're missing a tremendous opportunity to do that. So I really believe that it's up to the chief executive officer that he or she sets the stage to say, here are our expectations. And then you can never, ever miss an opportunity to act. So when you have an opportunity to manage an organization like this, you ask yourself, why would you do that? Why would you set the stage for a compliant organization that spends a great deal of time, energy, and focus on seeing to that you do that? And the answer to it is really quite simple. It is in the best interest of your shareholder. Because the cost of non-compliance versus the ease of being compliant is clearly a demonstrable difference in how much a company may spend. So I'm absolutely convinced that the compliance endeavor and the freedom of your people is a much easier approach to take and much more beneficial to your shareholders at the end of the day. I'll always remember, as I'm sure you all do, being raised in the Middle West, my mom used to always say, tell the truth, it's easier to remember, and that's true, and the wash always comes clean. How many times have you witnessed a poor witness being grilled by members of the House or the Senate or a lawyer on cross-examination and trying desperately not to say the one thing their lawyers told them not to say? Eventually it'll get out, and eventually the facts will come forward because facts are incredibly powerful. I thought back to the many things that affect a human being as you're going forward in corporate America. Because as you know, whether it's in a law firm, an accounting firm, a big manufacturing organization, a consulting organization, there is a culture. And there is a requirement that you find a way to fit into that culture. But there is a requirement that you also stand tall to speak your mind if you see something in that culture that's dissatisfying. So let me visit quickly then back to Northeast Utilities. An amazing opportunity for me, a call from a search firm, would you like to be Chief Executive Officer? This company only has an NRC problem, a union problem, a Connecticut Department of Public Utility Control problem. We think you might be able to handle it. It was important to set as quickly as I could a culture that said we are going to comply in every way that we can, in every way that we can. And the very first meeting I had, the board was scared to death for me to have my first annual meeting when the nuclear plants weren't open yet, and they surely weren't going to be open for a while, and we did that. And the first couple of questioners asked some very difficult questions, wanted one of my board members to respond because the year before, the CEO who lost his job had a clock at the annual meeting of the owners of the company. And after 30 seconds of asking your question, the microphone went dead. The board of directors were facing the stage rather than the audience, and the audience demanded, have those people turn around so we can look them in the eye. And he didn't do that. And people started booing. The meeting went on for hours, literally hours. And so they're worried about me in my first meeting, and we got there and we said, well, first thing we're going to do, folks, we're going to have you face the audience. And we're not going to have a clock. And we're going to answer the questions, all the questions. And so the board saw something, my executive management team saw something that said, this is different. He really is going to do things different. He really believes in what he's been telling us. And the board walked away from that annual meeting and said, gee, we didn't think it would go that well. I said, well, neither did I, but I'm glad that it did. So the team then told me, well, the problem at Millstone is that the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is picking on us, that the Connecticut Department of Public Utilities Control is picking on us, that the Institute of Nuclear Power Operations is picking on us, and that the union is picking on us. And I tried to convince them that no, those organizations, every one of them were trying to help us. And the sooner we realized that they were there to be helpful in the process, the more quickly we'd get the units back online and stop the financial bleeding, and that's exactly what happened. And to this day, I presume that those folks understand that when folks in the regulatory world reach out and help you by being strong about what their expectations are, that's exactly what they're trying to do. And then we had the first shareholder meeting, annual meeting, and one of the retired employees was very upset with the way that American Electric Power had made a lot of international investments, and this fellow's at the telephone, or at the microphone, and he's going on and on and on. And I can see the board with some body language going, oh, Mike, when are you going to stop this? But I could also see the audience saying, geez, he's just letting him talk. This is a shareholder who has a proposal. He has every right to keep the floor as long as he or she wants to keep it, to raise that issue. That's what annual meetings are about. They aren't get them done, slam them shut, and don't answer questions. That is not what they're about. So I think people began to get it. I went to my first safety meeting. We had lost, we are the biggest operator on the Mississippi River, the inland waterways. We had lost an employee who fell off the front of a barge at with a tug behind it. So we're talking about this fatality, and it was every year we'd had a fatality for a number of years. And finally, the safety manager says, well, this meeting's over with at 9:30, so let's go. And this was my first safety meeting as the new CEO, and I said, we're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. We're going to stay here until we get to the bottom of this, because this is a management error. This is not, the employee should have known not to go out without a rope on him. He should not have been out on the front of the barge, but he was. And there was no communication, a football field long from the tug to the front of the barge where he was. And after about an hour and a half, people began to realize that, geez, this is really different. What we're going to do here in safety is really different. In 3 of the last 4 years, we have had no fatalities at American Electric Power Company. 25% of our bonuses are lost if we have a fatality. We are serious about safety, and this company knows we're serious about safety. And the union workers know we're serious about safety, and they work harder because of it. My shareholders benefit, and more importantly than anything, a family isn't so negatively affected by the loss of a loved one or the loss of a provider. Those things are critically important. Then we had our first stakeholder meeting. We brought everybody in who hated American Electric Power because we burn coal. And I've got to tell you, the first couple of meetings were quite interesting. But what you learn when you do that is everyone has a point and everyone has an agenda, and the more you give yourself the opportunity to hear it and understand it, the more likely you are to find points of agreement and points that simply will help you move down the road. So the point here is you enable folks to speak their mind. We created something called Ask Sandy. We had a corporate compliance group that about 2% of the issues raised by the employees were the company's fault, 98% were the employee's fault. That can't be. That cannot be. So we put one of our young, aggressive female lawyers in that spot, and I suggested to her, Sandy, if about half of these things aren't accurate, then we're not doing this right. People began to comment. The anonymous comments went way, way down. The volume of comments went way, way up. That's good news, not bad news. And today, I think we've created a culture that makes a difference. And it'll just be good for my shareholders because my employees will feel better about what they do each and every day. And it's the easiest thing in the world for someone like me to do because I believe in this. I believe in this wholeheartedly. So that's it. To me, that's what it's all about. It's to the best interest of your investors. It's to the best interest of your employees. It's to the best interest of the reputation of your company. I know that you had a speaker from BP. You don't hear any more about Beyond Petroleum. What you hear is a company desperately trying to resurrect a reputation that was well-deserved but lost over 2 events. And I'm not saying here, and I surely wouldn't stand here in front of you to say we're done. We're never done. But we're surely making progress in trying to protect the name of American Electric Power for the benefit of the folks who work there, who retired from there, and who invest in that company.